All right, guys, here we go. Welcome back. So you're going to be seeing this on Monday, and we're going to start our series on classical music. We're starting in the Baroque era, which is going to last 1600 to or so 1750. We say it ends at 1750 largely because of this dude right here, Johann Sebastian Bach, and we'll talk more about him in the upcoming videos, but I just happen to love this picture. The first thing I want you to know about the Baroque music is that if you recall the last slide, we're thinking like, oh, is classical music relevant? Is it, blah, blah, blah. Well, in the Baroque period, and I don't think we're going to get into too much why. However, what I do, guys, want you to know is that just like today, Baroque music was all about the bass and no treble. I mean, some treble, but really, Baroque music is all about the bass. So that's why I've got this great picture here of Bach, and we're going to go forward. So in each setting of classical music, we're going to take a look at vocal music, instrumental music, and sacred music. So vocal music largely is going to be opera. When we look at instrumental music, that is going to be, well, instruments. And we're going to see instruments that develop in each era and so forth and so on. And finally, sacred music, predominantly music of the Christian church. So here we have the story of Orfeo, and here is a Baroque ensemble playing some instrumental music. And then this is the inside of a church built in the Baroque era. And I want you to know that Baroque is, in fact, a highly ornamented, highly decorated style of architecture. And clearly you can see this is very ornate, very decorated, very intricate, and that's going to apply to the music, okay? So I just want you to remember that Baroque is architecture, but it does relate to the music. So, secular vocal music, the opera and cantata is what we're going to look at. Now, these are not the only two styles, and in sacred, we're going to look at the mass and the oratorio. So, by the way, this is another instance of a Baroque opera house. Again, you can look all the gold on the ceilings, all the different decorations, the painting, all that. So again, architecture, very, very ornate, very decorative, and we're going to see this in our Baroque music. So we're really concerned with opera, the cantata, and the mass and the oratorio with our sacred and secular vocal music. Okay, so just remember that secular, it's not church. Sacred, it's church. Okay, in the case, because this is Western Europe, predominantly New Testament, although if we get into people like Mendelssohn, we will see some Old Testament stuff out of the Hebrew Bible, and hopefully we'll get there, but it's going to be really, really great music either way. So first and foremost, we're concerned with this guy. And for my students, yes, even lecturing at home, I do have my trusty iced coffee. So we're most concerned with this guy, Claudio Monteverdi, an Italian guy. This is his picture, okay? Obviously, in the 1600s, he's not going to pick up his iPhone and get a selfie. So this is Monteverdi. It's a cool picture because if you look at what I'm pointing out here, you can actually see the detail that the painter made in the book here. There's written music right there in his choral book. So we're concerned with opera and Claudio Monteverdi. Here's his dates, 1567 to 1643. So a lot is happening in his lifetime. If you think about what's going on in the world, this is about 70 years after Columbus arrives in Hispaniola in the Caribbean, the age of discovery, the age of the conquistadors. through America. Our Pilgrim separatists leave England and arrive in what's now Massachusetts during his lifetime. So it's a very interesting time to be alive, and the world is radically changing. Monteverdi, amongst other things, is the father, we say, of the opera. Okay, so I want you to think, before I change slides, what do you think about opera? What do you know about opera? So think about that and take a second. Would it surprise you to know that when operas were first invented, they were certainly not for the upper class, as so we might see or commonly think that today here in America? No, opera was entertainment. In fact, as we get into some operas, the entertainment is very bawdy and very, very rated R. And so we'll get into all of that. But I want you to understand that this music we're talking about really, really is entertainment. And yes, the upper class would go and they would sit in boxes where they couldn't be bothered by the regular folks like you and me. But for the most part, just like we go to the movies today, people would go to the opera to see a story, right? Except it's just done live. So this was not an upper versus lower class thing. This was just entertainment. So we see in Monteverdi's life, the story we're going to look at is his first big opera is composed and debuted in 1607, and it's Orfeo. Now, your assignment for this class, which will be due on Wednesday, is to go ahead and look up the story of Orfeo, specifically from the opera. And I'm not going to give you a link. You have to do your own research. And you are going to have to tell me in about 75 words what Orfeo is all about. But it's based on the Greek myth of Orpheus. We're going to look at the video together. But before we do that, it's really great. I do have a link here. And we're going to take a look at the original score. And it's 112 pages. And it might take a moment for this to load up on my computer, although I do have a very fast connection at my house. There's the binding of the book. There's this. Orfeo, the music of Claudio de Monteverdi. Isn't that great? And as we can go through and we can start to see, here is the original music printed in 1607. So this book still exists today. It's really something. And if you're following along, you have the slides, My Students at Home, so you can see this. But one thing I wanted to get your attention with, and I'll see if I can find it on here. Look at that. That says Monteverdi. So there it is. There's his handwriting in this book. And I think this is such a cool artifact. And we still have that. So you guys can keep taking a look through that, but I'm going to go back to our slides now. So back in our slides, we're going to look at two sections. We're going to look at the introduction, a little bit of the opening of the opera, and then we're going to go to the men's chorus at about the 27-minute mark for a very famous song. So let's just pay attention, see what you see. This video is fairly new. I think it's a really good video, to be honest with you. But let's go from there. And I'll keep my chat window open here, and I'll kind of guide us through the listening. And hopefully we won't have
to fly a rocket ship, you need to be an optimist. No astronaut launches for...
All right, here we go. Opera House, Barcelona. quickly, this is the conductor walking down the aisle, and as we see in the balconies up here, we see brass and percussion playing period instruments. So in 1607, this is what these instruments would have sounded like. You to also notice that the instrumentalists in the orchestra here are also playing period instruments. Let me pull up the annotate tool and we can see a few. Let's see, spotlight. Yes, very good. So we can see kind of right here what they are looking at. If we see different types of recorders, and if we see this guitar here, right here, it's a little bit different. And we're playing different types of string instruments. We're playing these harps. So we're all playing period instruments here, which I think is really quite cool. So let's go back to the video. Fast forward to about the 27-minute mark because the men's chorus here, which we will like to see, is very well known and famous. So let's take a look at this. All right, here we go, guys. Now, to us, this might seem, I don't know, different or whatever, but I want you to put yourself in the mind of someone that lived 400 years ago, and you're at this big concert hall and you've worked all day in some horrible job and you've scraped together the pennies to go this, and now there's this big thing and there's dancers and a full orchestra and all these different actors and musicians. I can't tell you what great entertainment this would have been, right? You know, these days, my guys, and even when we're in regular school, you know, I'm always saying, hey, get off YouTube or whatever. But this was just fantastic entertainment. So I want you to think like you were living 400 years ago, even more, 13 years ago when this was written. So you need to put yourself in the minds of these people to appreciate this for what it is. Let's keep listening. I'm going to stop the video here. I would suggest you listen to as much as you possibly can, and I'll take it on your word that you will do a little bit more listening. But I'm going to wrap this up, and my last part of the assignment here for you guys, and this is how I'll know you've actually listened all the way to the end, is that my wife, Mrs. Postal, is a fantastic opera singer and a fantastic vocalist and a voice teacher. And I am for certain that you all have questions about opera. And so I am asking you to include in your summary of Orfeo, which will be due on Wednesday at 9 a.m., questions about the opera. And we're going to do the next video will be a question and response with myself and Mrs. Postal, and she will answer your questions. So I want you to come up with a question. Everyone, a single question. You must have some kind of a question, because I know for a fact that you don't know everything about Baroque opera. So I want you to do that for me. Submit that with the document, and I will thus know who actually did their assignment. Okay, guys? So be well. Let's get this stuff into us by 9 a.m. on Wednesday, and then we'll put out another video and kind of an opera Q&A with Mrs. Postal on the next video. So, guys, keep up the good work. We're also now in a new marking period. So we've had the transition to online. You know how to do Google Classroom. The expectation is you keep getting stuff done and turning stuff in, and that is that. So we'll look for those summaries on Wednesday at 9, plus your questions, and we'll pick 5 or 6 questions about the opera, and we'll answer those in a Zoom video and get those posted, and then I'll continue. And hey, next time we're going to start looking at some cantatas by my man Johann Sebastian Bach. So until next time, guys, take care. Please be good. Stay inside. Do what you have to do, and we'll talk to you soon. All right. Bye-bye.